Solomon punishes Joab by Ginzberg. At the youthful age of 12, 1, Solomon succeeded his father David as king. His real name was Jedediah, the friend of God, but it was superseded by the name Solomon on account of the peace that prevailed throughout the realm during his reign. He bore 3 other names besides: Ben, J.K., and Ithiel. He was called Ben because he was the builder of the temple, J.K. because he was the ruler of the whole world, and Ithiel because God was with him. 2. The rebellion Adonijah intended to lead against the future king was suppressed during David's lifetime by having Solomon anointed in public. On that occasion, Solomon rode upon a remarkable she-mule, remarkable because she was not the product of crossbreeding, but of a special act of creation. 3. As soon as he ascended the throne, Solomon set about executing the instructions his father had given him on his deathbed. The first of them was the punishment of Joab. 4. Notwithstanding all his excellent qualities, which fitted him to be not only David's first general, but also the president of the academy, 5. Joab had committed great crimes, which had to be atoned for. Beside the murder of Abner, 6, and Amasa, of which he was guilty, he had incurred wrong against David himself. The generals of the army suspected him of having had Uriah the Hittite put out of the way for purposes of his own, whereupon he showed them David's letter dooming Uriah. David might have forgiven Joab, but he wanted him to expiate his sins in this world, so that he might be exempt from punishment in the world to come. 7. When Joab perceived that Solomon intended to have him executed, he sought the protection of the temple. He knew full well that he could not save his life in this way, for the arm of justice reaches beyond the doors of the sanctuary to the altar of God. What he wished was to be accorded a regular trial, and not suffer death by the king's order. In the latter case, he would lose fortune as well as life, and he was desirous of leaving his children well provided for. Thereupon Solomon sent word to him that he had no intention of confiscating his estates. 8. Though he was convinced of Joab's guilt, Solomon nevertheless granted him the privilege of defense. The king questioned him, "Why didst thou kill Abner?" Joab, "I was the avenger of my brother Asahel, whom Abner had slain." Solomon, "Why, it was Asahel who sought to kill Abner, and Abner acted in self-defense." Joab, "Abner might have disabled Asahel without going to extremes." Solomon, "That Abner could not do." Joab, "What? Abner aimed directly at Asahel's 5th rib, and thou wouldst say he could not have managed to wound him lightly." Solomon, "Very well then, we shall drop Abner's case. But why didst thou slay Amasa?" Joab, "He acted rebelliously toward King David. He omitted to execute his order to gather an army within 3 days. For that offense, he deserved to suffer the death penalty." Solomon, "Amasa failed to obey the king's order, because he had been taught by our sages that even a king's injunctions may be set at defiance if they involve neglect of the study of the Torah, which was the case with the order given to Amasa. And indeed," continued Solomon, "it was not Amasa but thou thyself who didst rebel against the king, for thou wert about to join Absalom, and if thou didst refrain, it was from fear of David's strong-fisted troops." 9. When Joab saw that death was inevitable, he said to Benaiah, who was charged with the execution of the king's order, "Tell Solomon he cannot inflict 2 punishments upon me. If he expects to take my life, he must remove the curse pronounced by David against me and my descendants on account of the slaying of Abner. If not, he cannot put me to death." Solomon realized the justness of the plea. By executing Joab, he transferred David's curse to his own posterity. Rehoboam, his son, was afflicted with an issue. Uzziah suffered with leprosy. Asa had to lean on a staff when he walked. The pious Josiah fell by the sword of Pharaoh, and Jeconiah lived off charity. So the imprecations of David were accomplished on his own family instead of Joab's. 10.